Welcome to BDEX's Deconstructing Data podcast and live stream. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO. What's new, David?
I think I'm going to change my title from founder, CEO, and vibe coder.
Yes, I think that's appropriate, given the apps that you're spitting out, which are pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've been spending my weekends on a rainy day. I end up sitting in vibe coding. Lately, I'm using Replit. It's my favorite now, but it's really helped me sort of come up with ideas, or just take my ideas and visualize them, and then hand them over to the product team and say, "Here, this is what I'm talking about." And it's just been crazy. How easy it is to put something out and just describe it and build it. So I think I should add that to my title.
All right, founder, CEO, and vibe coder, it's official. And I'm totally with you. I love how fast the technology is just evolving right now. It's like, can you imagine even just last year, knowing that you'd be able to so quickly build an app like that? I mean, it's pretty incredible. But anyway, we're going to be getting into...
It's crazy. We said it here first, actually, right? We said it here first on one of our early podcasts, just like 3 years ago, that this would happen and we'd be able to just tell AI to build something for us, and it does, and we're here. So it's pretty cool. But we should get into the podcast, and we have a repeat guest, and that's always fun.
Absolutely. So today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome Ted Sfikas. He's the field CEO at Amplitude. Welcome back to the show, Ted.
It's nice to be here. Hi, Jessie, and hi, David, and hi to all your listeners. I thoroughly enjoyed our last podcast together, and things have really changed in a year or two. It's not the same situation anymore.
Yeah, for sure. A lot's changed, and your role has changed. And so I'd love for you to kick us off. For those of our listeners and viewers that are not familiar with you, why don't you give them a little background on your history and what led you to become the field CTO over at Amplitude?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been around for a while. I started off in engineering and architecture after graduating from the University of British Columbia, just north of where I am right now in Seattle. And I spent a long time coding, doing quality assurance, engineering, and so forth. But my passion was digital marketing and AdTech. So circa 2015, I joined a company named Telium, where I cut my teeth on all things digital marketing and AdTech. And I was introduced to what I knew was going to become a modern data strategy. The first thing I said back in 2015 is, how does Google know this about us? How does it know all of it? And it intrigued me, and it made me want to learn more. So I went into solution architecture in pre-sales. So I had the good fortune to talk to every single vertical in the market today, from healthcare to pharma to banking to retail, you name it, and the tools and techniques and risks that they were enduring in delivering some of the most sophisticated technologies in the world today. And that is in AdTech, in programmatic AdTech especially. And then I joined Amplitude in 2024, in January. And I did that because, as we just said, everything had changed. All our notions about where data should live and who should own it, who should store it, how should it be delivered. Data governance really started to surface, and everybody just groans because data governance is hard. It's not easy. It's a job that never ends. And so it needs a steward in the company. And I saw the rise of the chief data officer, but I wanted to remain out talking to the field. That's my passion. I want to learn from clients themselves on how they use our tools at Amplitude. And it makes it fun. It makes it fun going out there as a field CTO and constantly informing our product team what new features are being asked for, what we see on the horizon, and how our clients are actually driving the lower risk and the higher efficiencies with our tools and the role we play. So that's a long answer to it, but it's been a long time, I guess. I'm an old guy.
Yeah, I hear you. We've seen a lot of changes, and a lot is changing even faster. Every month, things just seem to change faster and faster and faster. one of the things you just mentioned, is data ownership and data governance. And so would love for you to kick off this first topic, digital currency, empowering data ownership and literacy.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with, the umbrella term around that, right? Data literacy is a technique. Obviously, it's a skill that we learn how to interact with technology, how the business defines its data, its use. We're at the point where the data that a business or a brand puts together can be metered for effectiveness. We know who uses which pieces. We know why they're important. We know the security implications of them. And so to become literate in data, you have to be literate in the business first. And so you should be able to express, this is the data I need for this use case, for this purpose, for this discipline. And it's not all the same modality, right? Some data comes in directly from your owned and operated properties. Some data we learn about our customers through external sources. And so how do we treat these different pieces of data is going to define the sophistication of your data literacy. In effect, when we're bringing in a lot of data from our customers, data has become a digital currency now. And so I believe, I'm very passionate about this, that it shouldn't be up to the business alone to determine your literacy as a consumer or your expertise. You have responsibility to this as well. And so you have to take an interest in it when you get those annoying pop-up banners on how you want your data to be treated. And you should be able to know how it's being controlled. So 2 points of view, one from the brand and one from the consumer, but they share the same interests. There's nothing more than I want than effective advertising, but I'd like my privacy to be respected. And there's a balance there.
Yeah, I think the reality is nobody reads those pop-ups, right? I mean, they pop up and everyone just clicks it, and they just want to get to the content that they're trying to get to. And to your point, they do feel that's annoying. They never really dig into, okay, where's my data going? What are they doing with my data? And, and now at least, there's a lot of transparency there, right? Because of regulation. So companies are required to say, okay, this is what we're using the data for. But it's not until somebody really takes the time to dig into that and read it all that they actually know.
Have you been to Europe recently? I just got back from a trip to Greece to visit my relatives. It was pop-up fatigue, banner fatigue. Every time you go on the web, it's banner after banner after banner, right? It's the opt-in. But I feel like they care about my privacy more over there. Over here in the United States, we actually have a very stringent data set of laws for data in the CCPA and all the other institutions that surround it. But it's opt-out, and so it's considered less than the GDPR. But once again, I think the missing piece is the person, the consumer in the middle, individual data governance, and bringing up everyone to a form of literacy starts with understanding your rights in your data, especially now that we have robots generating new data about us.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of companies fail in trying to do that, trying to sort of centralize I don't know what you want to call it, but centralize where all of your data is tracked and how who has access to your data, who doesn't have access to your data. I've seen a lot of companies fail in trying to do that just because, honestly, I don't think there's enough consumers that actually really care that much until their data is breached.
Until it's
right. No one really cares, but then all of a sudden they get an email or read an article that says, oh, 100 million records were hacked from this company or that company. And then everybody throws their hands up in the air and they're like, oh, this is crazy, and they're all mad and they're all upset and they want their, to be part of the class action shoot, and they get $1.50 from it,
a buck for it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the weird situation that we're in, right? It's like everybody wants it, but nobody wants to deal with it.
Yeah, I hear that as well. But it's to your point, I think the recent buzz that AI is generating, people are aware that it's our data that's powering these large language models. And these large language models are learning from that data and using your data to know more about you to predict. Now, is that a good thing? Probably in a lot of ways it is. I love that idea. I'd like to know what I want to do next. Please tell me, where should I travel?
Right.
But again, it's, think about tying it to data governance now. We still don't have a category for AI is allowed. When you go to a banner, you have the strictly necessary cookies, the marketing cookies, probably something for analytics that you can't turn off because there's nothing wrong with staying anonymous if you consider yourself truly anonymous. And then there's personalization. But there's a movement being made for a fifth category for AI to take a look at your data. For now, I see it broadly encompassed in the behavioral category of a banner, because they know behavioral, when you check that box and you leave that on, you're allowing the company to run decision making. And that's the legal term that they use, decision making on your data based on whatever technique they want, including AI or machine learning, or perhaps some linear form of thinking. If Ted continually throws jeans in his cart and kills the browser, he's a cart abandoner. That's not rocket science, but that's a form of behavioral data processing. And so again, sometimes it's good, sometimes it can be kind of shady. So it's, I think it's going to lead to some really specific, not any jargon, but really specific explanations explicitly put in that banner. It's high time to do that. We can't have 6 pages of privacy page to read through.
Please no, like no one wants to read. Please, I mean, I'm not just a marketer. I don't want to read all the legal mumbo jumbo.
No, that's a problem.
I know, but here on the show, we like to predict the future. I don't know if you remember us talking, was that pre-show or the beginning of the show, we were saying, some of this stuff in terms of like Lovable and building apps we talked about a year ago. But our second topic is the future of marketing as it relates to AI and avatars, Ted. So what can we expect here?
I mean, so the avatar is an interesting. I think of a video game when I think of that, but it truly is a very good word for it. It's, you have a persona inside every brand and every business, and you look differently to every brand and every business. That's made possible by you consenting, obviously, on their owned and operated properties. But where avatars have really taken off and your personas are becoming more enriched with facilitating information is outside the brand. And in the last 5 years, especially in the last 2, I would say, identity management has really surfaced as the key ingredient to building that avatar. Those digital tokens, those identity, they act as a bridge. When I'm watching Star Wars on Disney Plus, you can actually show me an ad if you're Nordstrom.com. You know that I'm watching it. How? Because Disney Plus works with DSPs like the Trade Desk to provide that bridge, that identity token that connects me to the Star Wars that I'm watching at the moment. And so we've really seen this take off, and a lot of the DSPs have completely evolved. I know I brought up the Trade Desk. It's had Kokai, its AI platform, now for 2 years, since 2023, constantly building on it. The next stage is measurement and validation, and we're doing a pretty good job there in innovating. And I know that because I work with Amplitude and we do a lot of data validation here. But that's where I see it going. I see this expanding. I see the first party data strategy really gaining a lot of steam. It was, I think, a year ago that eMarketer released a stat that for the first time in a decade, the budget for Meta and Google dropped to almost an equal level with first-party providers. So we know that brands and businesses, they're not just throwing $100K at Google and Meta and TikTok anymore. They're actually setting up their own retail media networks. They're actually setting up data clean rooms to collaborate with other brands for co-campaigns. They're doing it on their own. They're investing in the data. And, I don't have any metrics or stats, but I can tell you one thing that I've learned: businesses don't do this unless they make money from that. So they're obviously very successful in their first party data strategy, and there's much more to come.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a topic we've talked about here a lot, is first party data, especially when, and I think a lot of this started when Google threatened to deprecate cookies, and everybody kind of got scared and said, okay, we have to figure out, third-party cookies, or, if they go away, what are we going to do? We have to concentrate on first-party data. And so even though all these other sort of, alternative IDs started popping up, we started really seeing a lot more concentration on first-party data is really what we started seeing. And that's when the retail media network started being created, and obviously they've been very successful. Yeah, and that leads to a good point. It's, at the core of this, the success of first-party data strategies is trust. You have to have the consumer's trust. There's going to be a day, in my opinion, where we take complete control. We get rid of the banner in our browser, in our phone. We will have the categories of things. I will be able to say, if it's a clothing company, give them all my data that they need. If it's a bank, they only get these 5 pieces of data. I see us going to that future because it's a lot easier, and it builds trust. I'm the one who did it. It's not some business acting on behalf of me, even though I may trust the brand. And so to get to that point, businesses have to be ready. They have to be able to be good data stewards. The data governance itself is already agnostic. We have an event definition that the whole world uses. Most technologies that you see in the Lumascape today are event-based, and they charge by the event, which is a great way of metering your costs. We've already talked about identity management, but the last piece is data drift. And this is where, David, to your point, the single customer view is not just a buzzword. It's a job, it's a career, it's a team of people. And back in the early days when I was at Telium and we had this customer data platform, that was the vision. The customer data platform would be in the middle, single source of truth, ingress, egress, everybody's happy, privacy and security. But then we woke up and we said, this is actually really important. What about the warehouse? We've already invested tens of millions of dollars in building these warehouses and these lakes, and customer data platforms aren't supposed to govern those. They have to govern themselves. That's, to me, the most significant change in the modern data strategy since GDPR and CCPA kind of surfaced, is because of that trust and the risk associated with losing that trust. Brands began to really take seriously the single source of truth and the single customer view. And I believe it's heading towards the data clouds. I believe these data clouds, because they're big vendors, they're in every data sensitive industry that you can imagine. And we're talking Snowflake, Databricks, Azure, AWS, list goes on, Oracle, if you want to get to that point. But they're making a case for stop reinventing the wheel, stop saving data when you don't need to, right? If your tool is showing analytics, why the heck do you need to store that data and charge me for the same data twice? And so that's why at Amplitude, another reason I joined is they believe in that philosophy. And so we've created warehouse native solutions where data can stay in Snowflake, but I can still benefit from the outcome of the insights. I don't have to store it with a select set of that data, of course. Sometimes data needs to be saved. For real-time engagement, you can't have a warehouse talking to me on my iPhone in real time. And of course, those are always going to be there, but there's a hybrid solution there that, in my opinion, once we get to that point and data stops drifting and we've got as much identity as we need, not as we want, but as we need, we're going to start layering onto this new data layer. We'll start layering on the application layer. And that's when you get into composable CDPs and the value of being agile in this market, because who knows, next week something new might come out, and I don't want to be locked into a 10-year contract with the big marketing stacks. I want to be able to drag and drop whatever tool I want and need in my stack. Yeah, and you hit on something a few minutes back that I've talked about before, which is that when the user can control, the consumer can control the data that they share with potential advertisers, the value of that ad space is skyrockets. Think about it. Yeah. If you're the consumer and you're saying, like, yeah, I'm in the market for a new car, here's my, income, whatever, this, and this, and you're providing actual, data that's valuable to the companies that are going to target you because you want, because that's what you want to see, right? You
Yeah.
actually want to see, car commercials that meet your needs. Then all of a sudden the value of that ad space just skyrockets because you know how well that'll convert,
Yeah.
because
Well,
finally I'm seeing the ads that I really want or need to see. I'm in the market for this. I've been searching for a new car, what a pain in the butt it is, whatever. You're sharing that information and then you start getting ads for what you want to see.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
value goes
absolutely.
way up.
Yeah. And on the brands you want to, I mean, look at the success of retail media networks. I think a couple of years ago, it was a $20 billion industry. It's expected to hit, it's increased by 50% in a decade, less than a decade. That's a really good example. That's retail media networks are your alternative to social media advertising and search engine advertising. And that's because you know so much about me. You know my behavior, and very likely I'm going to end up on a certain set of retail media networks. We're liking the ROAS coming out of that. That's not it. You take a look.
Yeah.
You don't have to know all the statistics. Look at the cost of the CPM to get on the Trade Desk, one of the retail media networks. I personally did this. I worked with my marketing team and set up a campaign and did the first party data thing. It was awesome. But boy, was it ever expensive. I'd never seen such CPMs before. And out of respect for the contract, I won't reveal it. But let's just say it was like 5 to 6x higher than the cheap stuff you get on Google. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's more effective. You're getting your money's worth, right? You're not just advertising and spray and pray kind of thing. Just because someone put in jeans in the search engine, that could be a million reasons why, but you're wasting your ad spend on that. So we have the ability to become surgical with where our budget goes. We've had it for a while now. We just need to make it cost efficient, and we need to measure it to prove it. You have to prove this. And so that's why I said, I think Amplitude's on the way up. This is a company on the rise. We're in that business. We will tell you exactly what's going on. We will measure for efficiency and all your goals to lower risk.
So important, and such a great point. I mean, I think in marketing, just overall, in general, as a marketer, this is something I see people get caught up in all the time. Is they want to see all the impressions. They want to see really high exposure, but then they could care less, it seems like, about which ones actually convert. We need people, even in organic marketing, which I tend to be more of an organic marketer. People want to see they're getting lots of virality, they're getting lots of likes and comments. But at the end of the day, the clients who aren't getting any likes or comments, but have the message that resonates with their audience, are the ones making money. And what you said, it resonates across the field of marketing in so many ways that if there's one thing I could teach people about marketing, it is that. And it's the same thing with data. Quality over quantity. That's why I love what BDEX does, is we help people clean out the bots, the click farms. I mean, one of the first things I did as CMO at BDEX was turn off our Google ads, and that was 3 years ago. And to this day, I'm glad that I did that, because there's just a lot of bad data out there, and you don't really know what is quality versus quantity until you test.
You have to test it, and then once you test it, it's not over. Right now, you've got this cohort and you're pretty sure about it. I like this. Let's spend money on this cohort. And then you give it to another platform like a DSP, and there's more AI in there. And now you have to take advantage of the AI on another platform. And that might sound daunting, but it's actually quite easy to do. When you take a look at the controls that these DSPs offer, combined with the recent trends in dynamic creative optimization, where we can tailor the message on the ad in real time based on the person, that is space age kind of stuff, but it's at our fingertips. We have the capability to do this. So I'm bullish about this. I see the industry continuing to invest in the whole first party data ownership, especially in light of this antitrust trial that Google's going through. I don't think they ever shed that moniker anymore. It's becoming an issue, and I think data privacy is going to win that war.
Yeah,
100%.
Unfortunately, one of the issues that you just mentioned, you can take an audience that's really effective and move it and put it on another platform and get really poor performance. A lot of that, unfortunately, has to do with the identity graph. We have found testing identity graphs on so many different platforms that they contain a lot of really bad IDs. And those IDs could be everything from bots and click farms and all types of ad fraud. So they're devices that are trying to look like real people, unfortunately, and they do a really good job of looking like real people. And the other thing is temporary IDs. And unfortunately, you have this thing where you have these temporary or synthetic IDs, as some people call them, from Apple's ATT and Google's Do Not Track. And what happens is you end up with, hundreds, thousands even of mobile IDs linked to one consumer, and nobody knows which is one, is there one in there that's actually addressable? So they throw all of them in the audience. And now your reach statistics get all messed up. Oh, look, we're going to reach 30 million people. Well, guess what? You're not, because 20 million of those devices are not real devices. They're temporary IDs. And now you completely, can't predict, and all your analytics get screwed up. Yeah.
We really see that happening. I follow Dr. Fu on LinkedIn of Fu Analytics, and he's just committed to, I love him. He's just committed to bringing out the fraud in the digital ad industry. And even though that's my career, and I obviously I love my career, he should be able to exercise that, and we should be able to withstand it. So I think it's a very good thing that it's being surfaced, because we have the tools to fight back. And the first one, as we said, it goes back to trust. Authenticated people are real people in most cases. They're going to authenticate, whether it's multi-factor authentication or not. You start to learn as a business that these are IDs I can trust, right? And the difference is in years past, Google would give you this massive 5 million tranche of data, and your reach was high, but your precision was very, very low. Hard to hit the mark. With this one, with first-party data, our reach is very low, right? We don't have a lot of it yet because it's only our own properties, but our precision is through the roof. It's in areas that, you talk to a CFO on where they want to spend their money, they're going to say first-party data approaches, please. Authenticated data, because we know those people are our customers.
Yeah. And then the next thing from that is taking that first-party data and modeling it so that you can reach new audiences. But you have to have a really effective model. You have to know how to adjust the precision on that model. A lot of these platforms don't give you that capability. They don't tell you what level of precision their models are generating. And so all they're doing is saying, okay, well, we've taken your seed audience and we've expanded it into 50 million devices or whatever. And that's all well and great. But if the precision on that is, 20%, 30%, 50%, a lot of them are, then what good is the audience, right? When we do it, we tend to build on an average of 85% precision or greater. And so that's the most important pieces to look at, is what is the precision on the audience that you're building.
Absolutely. And that's why I think we've seen a resurgence in media mix modeling, right? That used to be the old way of doing things, whether it's in the 1950s where people were running by instinct, or whether it's in the 90s with spreadsheets. It's making a comeback with AI now, because it's using aggregate metrics, right, with different filters that you can apply to answer your questions. And it's not trying to be a magic wand. It's trying to directionally place you into a channel or a campaign that makes a lot of sense from the aggregate. There's a lot of signals that continue to be useful, even if they're anonymous, that we can use to drive media mix modeling strategies. And I see a comeback for that kind of software as well. So it's when you use media mix alongside good programmatic strategies, I think that's your best bet to overcome this kind of gray area that we're in until trust is fully built and the consumer takes back control of their data.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about modeling, so we kind of segued our way into the third.
Exactly.
Yeah,
there it is.
Into the third topic: AI created data, building trust through transparency.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off here, Ted?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I've been hammering on this for the last few years. It's the value exchange between the brand and the consumer. You have to give me a reason to give you my data. If you just want to measure how many people came to your website and clicked on product A, B, C and abandoned their cart, I don't really care. Like, there's no incentive for me. And I think we need a wake-up call across all industries. Some of them do it well. Some of them do it well, but most don't. We really need to think about that first thing. The banner that comes up asking for data is me opening the front door to your storefront and saying hello, right? When I say hello, you say hello back. You walk in, how are you doing? How are the kids? That kind of thing. You don't just say, here's terms and agreements. Let me know when you need something. It's no different. It's no different. That value exchange is step one, and it needs to be taken a lot more seriously if we're gonna realize a better data relationship with others. And it's being very explicit. Look at what's happening with the VPPD law, the video privacy law. They're getting trying to get a class action lawsuit. There's dozens of actions being filed right now in the circuit judges all over the United States, because all you're doing is going up to, in this case, I think it was a publisher. This person went up and said, okay, I subscribe to this newsletter. Well, that newsletter had pixels shooting laser beams at Facebook and shooting laser beams at TikTok, telling them what you were doing. And he never consented to that. So lawsuit started, and it's still being processed. Will the VPPD be taken differently than CCPA? I sure hope not, because I don't want two banners. So these issues are starting. It all comes down to trust. Like, there's people out there that I know how to breach this trust. I'm going to do it. And it's a good exercise for brands to understand that and really take that value exchange seriously and tell people what they're doing when they're coming on the site. So that and your data stewardship, throw out the data you don't need. You're paying for it, for crying out loud. You have to make that decision prior to the data entering the business. So there has to be technology in place on my phone while I'm on your site that adjudicates how much of my data it will need. And of course, when you have a good data lineage, and that data lineage includes events that help AI models upon consent, you can control it. And so it starts with the trust. It starts with the business doing their part, consumers being knowledgeable. And then we're going to go to a world where there's going to be way more use cases than we've ever dreamed of because of the AI automation in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a little bit of a delay on my voice, so I apologize if we've been talking over each other at all. But yeah, I mean, I love how you say data stewardship, and that term, it comes up on this show, and it has before. And we talk about trust all the time too. I mean, we've talked about a trust pandemic. I mean, people just naturally are having a harder time now trusting than they used to. So that makes it really hard to be a marketer. And so like, what to the average marketer out there, Ted, what would you tell them? Like, what do we need to do to build that trust in a simple way with our audience?
Well, deliver what you say you're going to deliver without trying to sell them something every single time, right? So if you're a retailer, offer them value outside of it. Like Nike and Adidas do a great job of this. There's apps that they offer that have nothing to do with you buying shoes, but you're probably going to want to buy a new pair of runners pretty quick if you keep following their jogging app or whatever it is. I see it here in Seattle around Green Lake. They've got a path built up for it. So they're finding new ways to engage with consumers in their lives that make a difference to them, that at first don't directly relate to a product that I'm trying to sell, but they're offering something. What can you do as a brand to make my experience outside of your owned and operated properties better? You're going to be more likely to find that I'm going to give you my data for that. And you don't have to do it all yourself. Perhaps you partner with another brand to make it happen. Perhaps you're a hotel and you partner with Hertz to make my travel experience better. There's lots of different ways to do this without compromising the data governance that you've worked so hard to build, right? That's what data clean rooms are for. We can exchange these things. I never have to know the name of the person whose data I'm sending to Google or Meta, but I do have to know their behavior so I can understand how I want to engage with them. So I think that it starts there, like start offering much more, because data is worth a lot more. And if you're only using it to do cart abandonment and time on site and stuff like that, like I said before, my data is only helping the business. It doesn't help me at all. So
Yeah.
find that alternative for sure. And then again, measure. And the measurement goes beyond just knowing how effective your campaign was. It's the quality of where my ads are going. Are people really seeing this ad? Or is Dr. Fu right and it's going to an MFA made for marketing website where it's just hundreds of ads are being thrown on and nobody's even looking at them? And so you're seeing the industry move towards that to try to rectify the areas of trust that are outside of the consumer brand, the trust that is between the business and its partners. Because that's
Definitely.
You're the steward.
Yeah.
I blame the retailer if an ad that I see from that retailer appears on a site that shouldn't be on.
Totally.
Yeah.
And David, I have to ask you too. I know we're running out of time, but since this topic always comes up about trust on this show, what's your take on this? Like, what do you think us marketers can do to help build trust in this really hard time to build trust?
I think, like Ted said, I think it's about building the relationships with the brands and helping the brands understand. If you're a marketer and you're working with brands or you work for a brand, you need to look at sort of the trust element of what can you do to help your customers trust you with their data, and what value can you give them? Because there's a value exchange there. And most people, believe it or not, are willing to give you their data. They're willing to answer your questions about, what they're interested in, whatever it is, if they're getting something for it. So there has to be that value exchange. And as long as there's that value exchange and that you can build and you stand behind that value, then the consumers will begin to trust you. And if the consumers trust you, they will continue to give you permission to use their data and give you more and more information. And I think, like to Ted's point, a brand like Nike does a really good job of that, because people, once they like a brand and they feel comfortable with that brand, they will use that brand's app. By using that app, they will actually click yes to share my data, because they're getting some value off of it. Maybe they're saying, yes, you can have my location information, because every time I do that and I'm running, you're telling me information about the distance that I went and how much better, I've improved my running, or whatever it is. They're getting some value back for sharing that information. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And as long as you continue to, earn the consumer's trust, they will continue to share with you.
They become advocates, don't they? They become advocates, and that's the best marketing of all. Like, I just recently bought a Cooper, and I went down to Seattle Mini Cooper, and I got no discount. It took way too long to get the car shipped over from Britain. Thank God I missed the tariffs. The tariffs weren't in place before I bought this thing. Now it's here, but I love my Cooper because there's a community around Cooper. Like, I've been invited to a parade in Seattle to drive down the street with my Mini Cooper. And it's like, how many others are going? They're like hundreds. Like, that's brand power. That's brand power. Like, I'm a big advocate for that vehicle because they talk to you. Like, they'll sell you something, but really, it's not rocket science to sell you it. They know you already want it. Let's talk about more. How do you use the Cooper more? Where should you go? And you meet community, like-minded people with a brand, you start to get a lot of trust.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff. Well, thank you both so much for sharing that. But before we go, Ted, any update since the last time you've been on the show of what your favorite tools in your tech stack are?
Yeah, I think I did a spoiler alert if you heard me mention a few times. I'm a huge fan of Amplitude, obviously. I made the decision to come here. It's my first and favorite tool. But alongside that, on the composable stack that I spoke about, I'm a big fan of Snowflake as your data cloud. I think that company has hired some really good people in the industry, and that distinguishes them. I'm a big fan of AWS. Boy, are they ever... It seems like every brand I talk to is using AWS's AI Bedrock for their applications, and we use it too over here at Amplitude. So, big fan of AWS. I love anything that is not a gargantuan 800,000-pound gorilla marketing stack. So I like Braze. They're the antidote to digital marketing. And then last but not
Mhm.
least, I love the trade desk. It's I think it's the future of advertising. I love how they've used AI. I love how they bought Sincera, which measures the quality of the inventory and provides a score for that. Like the trade desk is actually spending money to inform its customers. That's brand strength, man. Like they're not spending money trying to make more money off you. They're trying to tell you, yeah, you made a good investment. You should have done this. They're helping you. And so those are the brands that I recommend, but not the only ones. There's dozens and dozens, but I see them a lot working together in harmony.
That's awesome. Well, I do have to let you know, you've got another Mini Cooper fan in the comments. The Mini Cooper in Seattle is awesome. So
All right. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking. See, already it started. That's free advertising for Seattle Mini Cooper. Look at that.
there you go. And we've got David Wellborn, who's been watching here too. AWS Bedrock rocks.
Bedrock rocks. Yeah, it certainly does. What a fantastic. I seem to be biased because a lot of these are Seattle-based companies, but I promise I'm not. I just see it. I get out there and I've traveled the world, and that's how I form these opinions. Everybody's talking about those brands and those vendors.
I love that. Well, in closing, Ted, would you like to let listeners know how they could reach you if they wanted to connect with you after the show?
I'm the only Ted Sfikas in the world. So you can go on LinkedIn, and that's me. You'll see me there, and that's my favorite way to do so. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ted. It was we're so glad you joined us on the show again. We had a great conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
You too. Always a pleasure, Jesse and David. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and close us out. Audience members, we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX. So BDEX's comprehensive identity graph, which we were talking about identity earlier, being the future of avatars. So you're going to want to pay attention and make sure you're keeping up with this stuff. But BDEX's comprehensive identity graph enables you to build audiences that are going to reach real people with real quality data, not the bots and the click farms that we were talking about earlier, but real data that turns your anonymous website visitors into real actionable customer insights. So whether you're struggling, with cart abandonment, you've got poor targeting, or just declining performance in general, like we deliver the most accurate identity resolution and custom audiences in the industry, and we're driving measurable ROI. So reach out to BDEX. We would love to help you. You can use that QR code on the screen, or if you're listening on podcast, just go to bdex.com and click on Talk to an Expert to get connected with our team. But other than that, we look forward to seeing you all back next week. And thanks again, Ted.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ted.